Us, abandoned ship. We're not caring about this car. We're thinking about the next year.
Exit clauses, yada yada yada.
Hulkenberg is the blue shell right now. Angle grinder guy, he gets a raise.
There you go.
Whoa.
He gets both salaries.
There you go.
What are they doing with the 5th and 6th seats?
Yeah, it's just Weenie Hut Formula One Junior now.
They don't fire up the same way that F1 cars do.
Hello, Formula One fans and showgirls alike. Welcome to the Tyred Boys podcast. I'm your host, Justin.
And I'm Aaron. Welcome back, everyone. We've got a busy episode today. We've had a couple of weeks off since the last F1 race that we had. So back for you in Singapore this weekend. But Justin, it is good to see you.
Good to see you too, sir. Yeah, back-to-back weekends, always exciting. And then we have, pretty sure we've got United States coming up next as well. So yeah, just final stint of the season in full swing. But yeah, happy to be here to talk about the Singapore Grand Prix.
Absolutely. There's a lot to get into, and like you said, yeah, we've got the United States Grand Prix up next at Circuit of the Americas. But bouncing from Azerbaijan over here to Singapore, we had one week off in between. But we'll get into the quick hitters this week, get through some other motorsports news. In the world of NASCAR, we had JR Motorsports in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. That's who Connor Zilisch drives for. Going with a 1-5 sweep in the qualifying at the Roval for this last weekend's race. So 5 drivers on the team, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to start the grid. And then Connor Zilisch went on to win the race for his 10th win of the season, which I believe ties a record for the most wins in the Xfinity Series in one season.
Oh wow, that's pretty exciting. Very pretty dominant, obviously.
Yeah, a very, very strong start. And of course, he's moving up next year with Trackhouse GP to the, or Trackhouse Racing to the NASCAR Cup Series. We also have a little bit of IndyCar news. We have Dennis Hauger, who officially was announced to be going on loan to Dale Coyne Racing for the 2026 season, and then being expected to come back to Andretti to drive for them in the 2027 year when a contract slot opens up at that point in time. So going from F2, winning the Indy NXT series, and then on his way up to IndyCar next year. Looking forward to seeing how he does. And another driver that we're familiar with, Mick Schumacher, also may be joining the IndyCar world in the coming year. He is doing a test at the Indy Motor Speedway with Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan Racing. So we may have another former F1 driver joining the grid there in IndyCar.
Yeah, we just have to be careful that we don't get too many Formula One converts, we could say. We want to make sure we don't get too many over there now, because then it becomes this weird, like, oh, is that just like the F1 rejects? They just go like hang out in North America over in IndyCar. But yeah, as of right now, yeah, I'd be very excited to see Mick Schumacher back in a seat.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just more seats available, and of course there's some other series that we've seen F1 drivers go over to, but Marc Marquez here in the MotoGP world won and clinched his 7th MotoGP title. I believe it's his 9th or 10th motorcycle racing world championship all time, but 7th in MotoGP, tying the likes of a number of other 7-time champions, Lewis Hamilton, Michael Schumacher, across other racing series as well.
And he get the elusive 8th?
It's possible. He's driving extremely well. He's had a dominant season here in MotoGP, so it would not shock me to see him have that same kind of performance next year. I mean, he'll still be with the Ducati team, so I kind of anticipate that he'll maintain his form, at least putting up a fight next year.
I think that would be very exciting. I think Kyle Larson then would just have to bend the knee in that regard. You know, the most championships, you know, of any driver across like any motorsport, right now, tied for
Yeah.
it. You know, could surpass it. I think then, you know, the GOAT, Kyle Larson, I think he'd have to bend the knee.
Yeah, but I mean that's a year away at least. So for now, his title as the world's best driver remains untainted. Um,
Agreed.
but we saw a couple of other former drivers get back into the wheel with the Haas team this past week as well. So we saw IndyCar legend and current Formula One broadcaster Tony Hinchcliffe driving in a test session with Haas. And then we also saw Roman Grosjean come back and drive with the Haas team for the first time driving an F1 car since his crash back in 2021.
Yeah, and I'm
James
pretty sure he
Hinchcliffe, right? Or no, I always,
nailed it.
God damn it. I always mix up the names between, because everyone just calls him Hinch. And so then I can never remember. And then there's the comedian, James Hinchcliffe. Sorry.
James
Good.
Hinchcliffe, you called it though, bro. Yeah, very good. But yeah, he was talking about the test was at Mugello. I'm pretty sure that he got his
Mm.
like on track time. You know, a notoriously difficult track to drive. So like part of his commentary around it was always like, you know, I'm training my neck. Hopefully, I don't just just do significant damage to myself via that. But yeah, his drive in Magellan was quite fun to watch.
Yeah, and very, very cool opportunity. Io Komatsu also talked about it. I forget if it was on I think it was on the pre-race show or maybe the post-qualifying show, but somewhere in the weekend, uh, Komatsu was talking to him and just said it's kind of a cool thing for someone who is commentating on Formula One to also have the experience in a modern Formula One car, which we don't really see with the other broadcasters. We do have other broadcasters who have driven Formula One cars, but not in this current kind of era. So different from Brundle or even David Coulthard or some of these other guys. I guess Nico Rosberg would be the only somewhat comparable, but that's still not in the ground effect cars. Um, so definitely a cool thing for him to also have that additional knowledge. I think he brings a very like technical, but um, like he's very good at explaining things, but does bring that technical side, and so he has that additional information to pull from.
He do be good with the words, you know.
Better than me. That was tough to spit out there. But no, I just think having a larger repertoire of data and everything to be able to pull from, he'll be able to utilize that in his broadcast as well, which is a cool thing to have.
I have to say, having David Coulthard on the broadcast, I know, you know, and I'll probably say this every time. I've given him a lot of grief, I think, over my enjoyment of Formula One, but very much like some other personalities, I think I've totally flipped. I think he's a total gem to have on some of the broadcasts. Some of the insight into maybe how some of the behind the scenes are like maybe going on, maybe like what the into the mind of the driver, something like this. So yeah, I think he like has some very valuable insight on the broadcast.
Oh, absolutely. I enjoy it, and he always has some kind of off the wall things that he's gonna say too, which keeps you entertained. I know some people aren't as big a fan, but I love it when broadcasters go on their rabbit holes and tangents a little bit. It's kind of fun to see where their minds go when it comes to racing.
But Komatsu is correct, having Hinchcliffe be able to offer like modern day 2025 or whatever last year, like the year before
Mm.
his model, whatever car he was driving. But yeah, like pretty current spec Formula One car. Yeah, that's like big boon to his kind of on screen, like you said, repertoire tool belt. He can just pull from that experience. I'm sure that was incredibly valuable.
Yeah, and also sounded like a lot of fun. Both he and Roman both seemed to have a blast getting to drive around and put some laps in. So definitely a cool thing to see there. And then to wrap out the quick hitters during the off week, we did have Max Verstappen's race at the Nürburgring, where he went to win his first GT3 race with his teammate Chris Lolum. Who he had first kind of connected with through sim racing, joining the Team Redline sim racing team, and then getting out there with Max as his teammate for the 4 hours at the Nurburgring. He put a Max drove a really great race. It was fun to watch. Definitely cool to check out highlights. The guy who came in second was the guy from the real person from the Gran Turismo movie. um, so he got to be out there with some pretty quality drivers on the grid, and unsurprisingly, did Max Verstappen things and took home the win.
I don't think I fully appreciated when we were first talking about it and it was first in the news that he was gonna like be racing this other racing series and his like license, he's got to do this thing and then he can go through the gate and then once and then he can. I was like, okay, a professional racer is racing. I'm like, what do I care, man? Like you know what I mean? Like there's a lot to pay attention to.
Oh
I
yeah.
was like, okay, but then it dawned on me. I was like, oh yes, right, right now he's in the toy car, but what does this like upgrade him to? He'll get to drive like the Nordschleife in like a professional racing series. Like that's what he's trying to get to, which then I
Yep.
was like, oh my God, yes, of course. He's trying, like, he's not thinking about this race. He's thinking of like the big boy races that you can do on like the full course. And I was like, yes, of course. Okay. Now I understood. But I was like, man, I just don't get it. And then once I put a few of the pieces together, I was like, okay, no, that's actually like cool as hell. Max, like imagine Max in like a full endurance race on the Nordschleife, just like bombing those hills, bombing those turns. Dude, some of those like hairpins and some of the like the complex different sectors that there are, it's just like, oh my God, yes, yes, it would be amazing to just see this guy just bombing laps on this circuit. So now I figured out my own reason to pay attention, not just like, just
Mhm.
watch wherever Max goes, but it's like, oh, one of the best doing it on like one of the craziest tracks. Jackie Stewart is the one who coined it the green hell. Like he gets off the track and he's like, yo, that was some wild shit. And from that
Yeah.
day, everybody has called it. It's the green hell. It's like, oh man.
Yeah, it's a cool circuit, and I think just endurance racing in general, loves, but that's a really cool one to kind of take on initially compared to even like Le Mans and other some of these other endurance racing series. That is kind of a outlier, and so cool one to check out and be involved in. Max also became the first Formula One driver since like 1972 to win back-to-back races in different series, with Jackie Ix being the last. I think he won a race in um, some sort of I don't know if it was called IndyCar at the time, but I believe it was at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and then
Mm.
winning an F1 race like the following weekend. So Max just going off, and I think it's just cool for the eyes on some of these other sports, like I or these other racing series for lots of people who just wanted to see how Max did, to watch and enjoy a lot of these other drivers racing on the track as well, is pretty cool. And that uh, it's been kind of neat, I think, for me as well. Now, like, but for the podcast, I got my little sim racing wheel and pedals going this past week. So, actually getting to drive some like GT cars, even in the sim world and everything, is kind of neat to be able to relate even a little bit more to like those series, and give me some more reason or motivation to check them out more often.
For sure, you have like you have this like this more tactile understanding of what it is. Like, here, let me just offer you a couple thoughts on what you just said. So it's like the concept of red, right? You can explain what red is. You can tell it to somebody. You can say like it has these hues. It's evocative of this. It's used in this and blah blah blah. These things are this color. But until you like see red, you don't like really get it, right? Like you can watch a million laps, you can watch a million onboards, you can use a controller, you know, drift around in Need for Speed. But until you like try and take those turns and whatever, you don't have some like intimate like understanding of it. So I love that concept of you having now like, okay, now I have like a little bit of a layer. I'm kind of understanding these things. So that's really fun. And then to the like endurance point and like who our favorite Formula One drivers, like who they would look up to in this world. Like, what do they watch? What kind of racing do they care about? Like, do they care about racing? I always used to love the idea of your favorite rapper's favorite rapper back in the
Right.
day, like that concept to me just like it just blew my mind that like, oh right, like these are actually other people. They have likely been inspired by something. What
Mm-hmm.
were they inspired by? Like basically like what's the lineage? One of my favorite and like and you can track it like in their style and how they rap is Redman being from like, you know, the Method Man and Redman duo that like came after. He had like a long career before this, but Redman, he uses a lot of interludes, he uses a lot of comedy, he uses a lot of like satire, hyperbole, like funny storytelling. He'll characterize himself like as like an idea or a different person, and then kind of like uh and then like rap in that style. So I always love the idea of like who then like was inspired by that guy, and it is now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like who is your favorite drivers? Like favorite, like who are they looking up to? And it is like these dudes who are pushing the boundaries of racing. Who would they be looking up to? Yeah, yeah, of course, it'd be these like Nordschleife drivers and the endurance racers that like, yeah, Max is running 70 lap races or whatever, but maybe in his mind he feels like, oh, that's like chump change. Especially some of the way the drivers like come off of a weekend. It's like, bro, throw in like a rhino, a fire pit, like you know, like a spike section, and then it'd be like a real challenge, you know? Like you actually see them sweat at Singapore. Like I think that's cool.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's the concept of like who they're looking to and everything is a really like it's a really cool one, because I I don't know, maybe I'd be curious who Max Verstappen's favorite driver would be, but
It's
I
Kyle Larson,
mean,
obviously.
probably. But we even see them asking Fernando Alonso about it this weekend, because he's talked about some endurance racing, and he's like, I'd love to share a car with Max for the 24 hours of Le Mans or something like that. And like, it's cool to see these drivers crossing over, and like to, yeah, give some additional motivation or personal connection for me to watch some of these other series, because like otherwise I'm having to just learn from scratch and find something to latch onto, so that makes it just easier to transition into those worlds as well. So yeah, very very cool opportunity. And then of course, looking towards next year, I believe the plan is to drive in the 24 hours of Nürburgring. So that would be a pretty cool thing at that point in time. It's a little ways down the road though. But I'm definitely looking forward to more GT racing and just following along.
Yeah, one of the things that I thought was kind of interesting go along with the Singapore, Singapore Grand Prix weekend was the bubbling of conversation around driver seats and who's available, who's coming up. Teams are like looking to fill seats. The conversation around George Russell, the 2025 Singapore Grand Prix race winner. The conversation was like around him, where it's like it's crazy that this guy that just won a race, like kind of in not ridiculous fashion, but impressive fashion. Um, didn't have a contract locked up. So let's get into the do you work here section and talk about maybe some possible seats open and some of the other conversations around the paddock.
Yeah, and so to start off, I'll do briefly Christian Horner, who has left Red Bull. There have been some rumors that have swirled out there, but nothing official. And I think some of these things may still be have gone away or might still be up in the air. But there was conversation of him joining with Richard Childress Racing over in NASCAR and being a leader for Kyle Busch's number 8 team there in the NASCAR Cup Series. There are also some rumors linking him to a potential position with Haas, kind of taking over the helm there. But that sounds like they have kind of turned down that path and plan to stay with Ayo Komatsu, which I think has proven pretty well for Haas over the past couple years. So I like that kind of maintaining the leadership there at the Haas team. We also had the announcement of Martinius Stenshorn, who is coming from the Formula 3 series, that he'll be moving up to F2 with the Rodin Motorsports team. So another one of those strong drivers from the F3 grid that we'll see in Formula 2 next year. And then another F2 driver that we'll see in F2 again next year is Alex Dunn, who his contract with the McLaren development program was ended this past week. There is rumor that he will join the Red Bull Junior team and then potentially be fighting for a spot in 2027 after one more year in Formula 2. And I think that I think he's a solid driver. I think that that's definitely a path into Formula One. I think the more a lot of drivers should look to the Red Bull program for an opportunity in Formula One because they're known to be swapping these guys in and out pretty frequently. It's very possible that depending how next season goes, there could be another seat open on the one of the F1 teams, and um, Dunn sounds like he's hoping to position himself in a way to be in that conversation for 2027.
Yeah, and it seems like even though he cooled off in, I would say maybe the last like realistically like the last two out of maybe the last five, I'll say the last 2 out of 4 rounds, he's kind of cooled off. And then he's also like had a bit of bad luck in some of those rounds as well. So if you're looking at like his recent results, it's not the best, but his kind of early stint to the season, the early campaign that he put on, I would say was like really formidable. He's gathered up a good amount of points, even in races where he wasn't like contesting the podium. He was pretty close. He's finishing just kind of like eyeball testing just to my memory. He's finishing anywhere from like P5 to P8, even if like things are going wrong. So yeah, he may have cooled off recently, but I'm not surprised that he has been able to secure further conversations with, especially the Red Bull Juniors, somebody or a team that has a bit of a like conveyor belt type system going on here. So yeah, that's a great opportunity to at least try and get his foot in the door and at least just get a test, just be able to show him what you got, which is better than even, God forbid, think of like the next Formula 2 winner. Think of next year's Formula 2 winner. That's a brutal position to be in. There's going to be
Yeah.
like very few opportunities unless you're already in like a team's farm system, right? Think of
Yep.
maybe even possibly the 2027, right? So you're in a position where you're not even winning the series that you're in right now, and you're locking up at least a seat at the strategy table. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I think that's really good for Dunn, even though like we said, not that impressive recently. But yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, and I mean, just looking at him in terms of hit, like I didn't realize how young he still is. Like I knew he was a young driver and everything, but he's still 19 years old.
Yeah,
He's younger than Gabriel Bortoleto by a year. He's 2 years younger than Isaac Hadjar. He's like the same age as Kimi Antonelli, and that additional year in Formula 2 could just be what he needs to get that consistency together, cuz like you said, he had a really strong start to the season. He looked like really solid, and then as the season kind of waned on, he started to fall off a little bit, but maybe he can maintain that form from early season throughout for the upcoming F2 campaign. Um, but I think he's definitely a driver to keep an eye on, and just the four potential Red Bull seats available down the line always gives you just a little bit more flexibility or potential to get into one of them. So I think that's a good spot for him to be at.
yeah, for sure. So the Red Bull seats, or the Racing Bull seats, I'm pretty sure right now are unfilled. I don't think either of those drivers, like as of recording, have signed contracts. So those two will be up. The Pretty sure the second Red Bull seat is still up for grabs. I like the rumor is Hadjar up to the second Red Bull seat. Likely, we were talking last episode. Likely Yuki gets bumped, and then that opens up to for possible incoming. So we'll see who Max has opposite him. The Mercedes drivers, as of recording, had not locked up their lineup yet. So oddly, some seats still open. I'd be surprised if like large changes were made, especially with like Mercedes. I have a feeling it's just going to be George Kimmy, like especially the way Toto
Hmm.
talked over the course of the year. Like he can make mistakes today, but tomorrow, it'll be the real deal kind of deal, or kind of feeling, I should say. So I'd be surprised if big moves there, but yeah, still waiting on some of those contract talks.
Yeah, and I think that there's in my mind there's not really a question of like who will be driving for Mercedes next year. It's more so 2027. And I have a feeling
Mm.
that this conversation that and really the dragging out of George's contract, like it's not that Mercedes isn't going to re-sign him. It's just negotiating the details of that contract. I'm assuming George would be pushing for a longer term contract, especially with the rumors being that the Mercedes power is currently looking to be one of the strongest on the on the grid for the 2026 regulations. I think he is hoping to lock in a spot with a strong team that's putting together a strong car to potentially go after that title, and not just put it all out there for just 1 year and hope that's enough next year to do it. Like he wants to stay with Mercedes, and so I'm sure that that's all the hold up for his contract.
Interesting. Where's the word about Mercedes power for next year? Is that from,
It's just rumors
like
around the grid about
oh,
the
interesting.
engines with the 2026 regulations and everything. There seem to be um, most people around the grid are talking as if there's one team that's head and shoulders kind of above the others with the new engine regulations. There's a lot of conversations about there potentially being some significant gaps in race pace as some of the other engine manufacturers kind of get up to speed with the new regulations, which for such a large change, I think it's reasonable to expect that we're not going to have um, every team within 8 tenths of a second, or every driver within 8 tenths of a second on qualifying for next year, um, like we do this year in the last year of a regulation era. So I think that in terms of that, George is probably looking at, hey, I want 2-3 years at least. Mercedes on the other side, I think, is still going, well, Max's contract has to end sometime, right? I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of the holdup from Mercedes. And Mercedes is notorious for not wanting to give extremely long contracts. That's one of the big reasons that Lewis did leave. They didn't want to meet him with like what he was looking for as a longer term contract. And then, of course, the post F1 opportunities, being an ambassador for the team, and some of those things. But I think the length of the contract that Lewis would have wanted with Mercedes was just also longer than what they were willing to do, which is why he's over with Ferrari, or a component of that.
Gotcha. So the streets are saying that Mercedes is looking the best. So then your mind tells you George must be picking up what the streets is putting down, so he's gonna want to be there too.
Right. And
Hell yeah.
he's anytime he's been asked about it, he's kind of been like, he's not he doesn't seem concerned that he's not going to have the contract next year. And I can't fathom Mercedes replacing probably the second best driver that we have this season, um, for no reason. I've been rethinking my George opinions recently. He's
Second best driver? No.
I
I
think
disagree.
I hey, that's fine. That's my hot take. I have him, Oscar and Lando all very close together. Um, but I have George, Oscar, Lando, and then in my opinion, Max has driven the best this year. Shocker. Big surprise from me.
Yeah, I think we need. I think we need to check your files. I think your bias is way too strong to have like a metered opinion. I think your noted max bias is way too strong for you to have an objective opinion.
I mean, I think that even if you leave Max out of the conversation, if you're looking at George, Lando, and Oscar on the season, what George has done, and including, we'll get into it a little bit with the race, but he, I think, is tied for most podiums on the season. He's fourth in the championship with a car that definitely has not been the best car on the grid, barring maybe Canada, where he performed there as well. He's gotten multiple race wins now on the season. I'm just his consistency, and even while he had the flu a couple weeks ago or was under the weather, came out and put down a very, very solid drive as well. Um, I I just have I've been rethinking my thoughts on George. I mean, I think he is definitely a driver that or that would Mercedes should want to sign to a multi-year contract. He's been with the
Just
team for a while. He's a leader and he's performing.
all of your points I'll take. I think they're all valid. But just on the whole flu game thing, what if it just wasn't up to George? What if George was in hospitality? He called Toto and he's like, "Look, man, you gotta bring in Valtteri. I think he's just gotta do this weekend for me." And Toto's like, "Yeah, yeah, man, word, no worries." And guess who walks in his hospitality? MBS. And he's just like, "Hey, George, you are racing this weekend." George is like, I'm not feeling great." MBS, just alone with George in the hospitality, just steps over and leans close and just whispers in George's ear. Nobody is able to hear what he says. And George just looks at him and says, "Yeah, you're right. I'll race this weekend." MBS walks out of the hospitality. Just imagine that. I'm just saying it may not have been up to George. It may not be so like heroic is all I'm saying.
Hey, I mean, either way, he's still sick. He's still put at P2. I mean, that's still
But
a good
but
performance.
under duress
Whether
is
you
like a
wanted
different thing.
whether you wanted to or not, he still threw down a P2 there. 8 podiums on the season, 2 race wins. I mean, he's just been Mr. Consistent all year long. We've talked about him multiple times being like that next guy who's always putting himself in the best position. And he clearly doesn't have the best car, but he's outperformed his teammate. He's outperformed both Ferraris, who are kind of his closest constructors competition. Um, he's just been had a very good drive, so I expect Mercedes to lock him in for at least a couple of years, or
Fair.
at least maybe a 1 year with a performance clause that he gets automatically renewed or something like that if he hits a certain goal. Um, but yeah, still a few driver seats left up in the air, to say the least. We've got the Mercedes team, the Red or the Racing Bulls, second Red Bull seat. We have the second Alpine seat next to Pierre Gasly as well. So still a number of things to officially confirm before we are heading on to 2026. Um, but getting into or moving towards the F1 weekend, what were your favorite jokes and memes from around the water cooler this past week, Justin?
What I think is so funny is like so I heard a comedian one time talk about like current events, and he's like, sometimes I just like to go on Twitter, find like the post about the thing, and then look in the comments and see how far down like their joke is, like the joke that they would have made, right?
Okay.
So the one thing that I thought is that I find really funny pretty much every weekend, and we find out that they were actually like taking like actual on they were taking away from actual on track action to show the vapid reactions of the partners of some of the drivers. And it is to the point, especially, and here's where I'm just gonna try and shoot somebody in the head. They showed Liam Lawson's significant other a bunch of times throughout the weekend. God knows why. But it is very funny when you see somebody enough, very similar to like if you look at somebody and their dog and you're like, damn, they kind of look like each other. I'm like, yo, Liam Lawson's girlfriend looks like Liam Lawson. I was like, is that his sister? So I think if you're taking away from valuable on track action to show like the families of these drivers, it better be because one of them is having a heart attack and like we need to get somebody some help. Because I would
Yeah.
much rather see the drivers than like who their family is. You know, like I'm
Right.
great that I'm grateful that they're supported, but I don't. You know,
And I think it's like uncomfortable for them too. Like I've heard people talk about it, and it's basically a game of like chicken for them when they see the camera like coming towards them. that you just freeze and just don't stop looking at whatever. And you probably see yourself up on a screen and are trying not to react to it at all. But it's so wild that we are choosing to do that. Like, I understand Lando Norris's first win that he got in F1. Yeah, let's see his family. Let's see the people who are in the McLaren garage waiting for him. Let's see the family members while we're in between the end of the race and going to the podium. You get the top 3, like, boom, get those shots and everything. We had Lewis Hamilton having no brakes, like running through chicanes, running through corners, getting a penalty, trying to hold off Fernando Alonso, hunting him down in the Aston Martin. And we're showing people's significant others on the screen for the last, like, half lap of the race. Like, what are we doing?
Just casually leaned up, you know what I mean? Not even like an intense moment, somebody praying, you know. And like Lewis v Fernando was literally like 4 points. It wasn't like it was, you know, P13 and 15. It was 4 points.
And like, from when Lewis said, I have no brakes at all, to the end of the race, I don't think they showed his car at all. They showed his radio message, but then we didn't get to see a single thing. When Lewis is driving around on 3 wheels, the camera is locked on him, and just the ticker of max and how close he's getting and gaining and gaining and gaining. We have the opportunity to do it again, and they just chose to pan to the crowds and the families and whatnot. And for some people who, like, I mean, it wasn't even, I think they showed Lando's girlfriend a bunch too, and they were like,
it's everyone.
It's like that's not even George. George is the one winning. Show the Mercedes garage and his, like, his family and everything. And you're just showing other people. I think if you're gonna do it, at least, like, focus on the right the right people.
The right people, and like you said,
cars.
the right time. I think what you said about the, like, in between the, you know, the grid and the podium and all of these things, that's like the perfect time for that kind of stuff. So of the, like, of the memes and of the jokes, that was one of my favorite. Everybody just, like, you know, clowning, because it's like a team of people that are deciding, like, okay, cut to 31, cut to red blue, now show, you know, whatever. So some guy is like, you know, cut to Carlos Sainz's girlfriend right now. You know, it's like, come on, man, what the heck? So yeah, I was happy that they got made fun of.
I would also feel so uncomfortable to be the cameraman that they're like, "Hey, bro, get this shot," and they're just like going at this girl in the middle of the garage.
Again.
Like, that's so uncomfortable. I would not feel okay doing that from that perspective. But yeah, alongside with the TV direction for the weekend, we also had a bunch of drivers who were clearly agitated from the heat and just threatening or just full on shutting off their radios. We've got Fernando Alonso saying to his team, if you keep talking to me every lap, I will shut off my radio. He just, and it was like halfway through the race, there was still like 20 some laps to go. He's like, I will turn this off. Like, don't play with me. We've got Zach Brown congratulating Oscar at the end of the race, and Oscar just unplugs his radio because he's, I mean, the heat, I know the heat gets to the guys, but I feel like their tempers are just, like, much more apparent in those kinds of situations. They're probably feeling like it's 200 degrees in that cockpit, like, cooking in all of the gear and everything that they're wearing. George said he lost, like, I think he said 4 or 5 kilos of weight during the race, which is like 10 pounds. It's like, that's, like, crazy, but then these radio messages very clearly depict like where they're at. They're just trying to hold it together the best they can in this kind of weather and these conditions.
Dude, I love going back and listening to the radio rewind. That was gonna be one of my headlines for the weekend. I'll just throw some of my points in now because like I love hearing the conversations between the drivers and the engineers. I really enjoy the different communication styles. I really enjoy like hearing and learning about the different types of data that the drivers want, how they want it. It's actually really interesting the like how the dynamic shifts between all of the drivers and all of the engineers. There's
Yeah.
some that have a very like uh employee employer relationship. God
Yeah.
knows if you could guess who I'm talking about. There's some that are just like very measured, have like a very conversational tone. Somebody like Fernando Alonso, in some scenarios it feels like he just has CPU to spare. It feels like his like racing IQ is so high, he's just able to like in some senses just like compartmentalize the racing, and he like has a like he just has an awareness for some other things that are going on the track. So I can appreciate like his radio messages. Lewis, I've loved the like shift from the Bono Lewis era to the Lewis Ferrari era. I don't even know what his engineer's name is, but the way that they the way that they butt heads is very funny. And but God bless Lewis because he is so he just tries, obviously, like he tries everything he possibly can. The communication between Lewis and his engineer is like awesome to a different degree. And then my favorite on the weekend, Isak Hadjar, was just fucking boiling the whole time for like no reason. They couldn't like do anything about it. Like, bro, you're here, deal with it. Like, it will be over, all of these things. But it felt like he was just like, it felt like he was just trying to like argue with his engineer the whole time. So, yeah, he like seeing their personalities. This is my final point. Seeing their personalities amplified by the heat, the stress, the conditions of the race. I mean, bro, the radio is gold. The radio on these weekends is gold.
Yeah, it's and you're right, the all the different drivers do have some very different relationships. I mean, must be the water from Charles's engineer when he's like my seat's wet and they're like must be the water. And all these different things like we get those, but we also do get some good quality conversations about what's going on. We've got GP just being Max's bestie, like being like, you can thank your friend for that one after
Hmm.
qualifying, like just straight to the
Oh, dude,
radio.
it,
GP
it, it
is
it's like some comic book shit the way they talk to each other, I
it's
swear.
so funny. It cracks me up. But yeah, I mean it's this is definitely a race weekend, and these kind of race weekends are big ones that highlight that with some pretty fun and interesting conversations. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you've got for your other salacious headlines. But first, we just want to take a moment here to thank all of you listeners who are taking the time to spend with us, join in the conversation. Of course, we have our Discord. Check out the link tree for all of the different places you can find us. But we are very happy to have you all in our Formula One community here. And we look forward to doing this week by week. So thank you.
Thanks for listening. Back to the show.
So, getting into the full weekend, we had the F1 Academy series here first. We had the F1. So, this is the, I think, second to last round here before the final round in Las Vegas to wrap out the F1 Academy Championship. So, two races there in Las Vegas that we'll get to experience. But in the race weekend here for F1 Academy, we did have a little bit of some mixed conditions, at least in the second race. First race was relatively straightforward. It was fun seeing them and how the drivers attack the circuit on that lap one, turn one, like as younger drivers here in Singapore, because the amount of people that were just cutting that first corner, including Ella Lloyd, who ends up getting a 5-second penalty for gaining an advantage after cutting the corner there, was pretty kind of amusing to see. And just watching all these cars try and go that many into turn one is rough in any series, but Singapore's a tough track, so I was interested to see how they were gonna do, and honestly, they had a really clean weekend overall in F1 Academy. There were very few incidents. Um, in a very punishing circuit that we were at here in Singapore.
Yeah, I thought for the first race, the like turn one, lap one, kind of like bunch up. It was kind of funny. The first like two or three racers, it didn't even feel like they were like trying to make the turn. Like they were like racing each other so hard. Like they were just caring about position, not exactly like where it happened. I thought that was really funny. The other driver that really caught my eye in both of the races, but yeah, I'll keep it zoomed in. Chloe Chambers, like uncharacteristically, or depending on how you look at her driving style, like very in line. She drove incredibly aggressively on both days, like to the point though that it was actually detrimental to her races. I think she was like maybe forcing in some positions where like a little bit of patience she would have gained the same thing. I think specifically in the second race, like she was attempting some pretty aggressive moves. So I think Chloe Chambers will look back and say there may have been a couple of moves that she would do differently, but overall, you like the pace, you like the aggressiveness. I just think you have to temper that just a little bit. And I think this was a weekend from Chloe Chambers where her aggression wasn't as like reined in as sometimes it needs to be, depending on the conditions. The other thing that really impressed me in race one was Maya Vogue starts eighth, chaotic start to race one. She goes up from eighth to fifth, has more overtaking to do, gets all the way up on the podium as well. She's Dorian Pan's like she's the main contender against Dorian Pan. A P8 would have been just, I mean, that's almost a death sentence, right? With only two, well, at that point, with three races left, man, you got to make up position. So I thought Maya Vogue's race was really strong. So I was really happy to see that from I'm pretty sure Ferrari supported driver.
Yeah. Yeah, she has been so strong, and I think one of the things that's impressed me the most across the year with Maya is that she is so strong at making the passes happen. She's been so strong in qualifying race to race where she's typically around that P9, P10 point for the reverse start grid for race one of the weekend. And almost every weekend, you just find her making her way through the field, not having any incidents, not falling backward, but just constantly moving forward. And this weekend, with that big performance the uh um in the first race of the weekend, like that picks her up 3 points towards that championship fight with Dorian Pan. Then she goes up and gets the win, fastest lap, pole position for race two, and goes and picks up another 8 points, 11 points on the weekend, and now she's just 9 points back in the championship here. So she looked really strong this weekend, and has throughout the season to be right there in that title fight. But my other final note for race one here with the F1 Academy was Leah Block, who won the race. She takes it from pole position with that reverse grid. looks strong throughout, holds the lead, including through a safety car restart. She just bolted and had a gap immediately behind her. So really impressive drive from her to get her first F1 Academy win.
Yeah, really strong race from her. So I was really impressed with that. But then race two, what a banger!
Oh yeah.
Changeable conditions, wet for a small part of it. There's like questions of do we pit, do we not pit? The time's getting real late. Like if we go in now, we're getting beat anyway. So people are trying to hang it out. Oh my god, like these are the races at the end of like at the end of a year that you just hope like you can get right, where the two title contenders are starting P1 P2 on the grid. The launch from both of them equally impressive, equally as quick, right? So I just thought the battle throughout the whole race too between Vogue and Dorian Pan was just epic. It was absolutely epic. Hearing on the radio at the end when it was like, do we pit because the safety car's out. It's do we pit. There's only a couple laps left. And Maya Vogue says, "Of course we stay out." Oh my god, the fire in the belly is just like so good to hear. So the competition between those was just mint. Mint comes down to a one lap shootout right at the end. Bro, this was very exciting.
Yeah, and with the wet surface on the track and everything, watching Maya make the move on Dorian Penn, like I was waiting for I almost expected both of them to lock up and go sliding off around that corner because they're coming in so hot, trying to make the pass, wet track, and they're going into that hard left turn, and they both held it on, and so Maya made it stick. But man, that did not look easy. I was very impressed with both of their driving. I know that has to be frustrating for Dorian Penn to lose out on the points for the weekend, but she goes into the final race weekend here with a 9 point lead in the championship. Um, so she still has the upper hand going into the last weekend.
But yeah, two races in you said Las Vegas, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Man, I think that's gonna be very exciting between those two. Obviously, Dorian Pan and Vug have been a treat to watch over the last 2 years, but it seems like one of them will win. This year, barring anything crazy happening, obviously. So yeah, we'll see one of them moving on and up, which will be great. But yeah, it's just been a treat to watch. Specifically both of these two drivers race because they are quite aggressive and quite skilled. So yeah, it's been a real treat. But looking forward to see who comes out on top.
Yeah, and I'm also excited to see where they go after this season. F1 Academy has a 2 year limit for the drivers, and of course, champion cannot be in the Academy League again. So that GB3 where Abby Pulling is racing currently, or Formula 4 seems to be kind of the next step there. So I'm excited to see. I know, of course, Dorian Pan also drives with the Iron Dames, which I believe they're a GT3 team. So I know she does some other racing as well. But in terms of single seaters, I'm looking forward to see where they go. Um, and then just before we get into the F1 side of the Singapore Grand Prix weekend, I did want to give a little just condolences to Lewis Hamilton on the loss of Roscoe, who we've seen his dog, who he's brought around the paddock and around the race weekends for a number of years. So very very sad thing losing a pet and family member, and also well shout out for Roscoe and condolences to Lewis with that.
all dogs go to heaven, that's for sure. But yeah, it's always tough to lose a furry family friend. So
Yeah.
yeah, rest in peace to Roscoe, and condolences to Lewis. It's really tough. It's really tough losing an animal. So that one, just giving that to him as a person.
Yeah. And sorry for bringing the mood down, but let's bring it right back up with this week's segment of the hot seat for the Singapore Grand Prix.
I believe I've cooked up a good one for you. I know we haven't been, getting perfect scores, but at least, man, I've got a question 5 that's I think it's really gonna make you giggle. So, yeah, for the folks listening at home, we've got 5 questions, 3 multiple choice answers each. So if you'd like to play along at home, that's how the game works. Aaron, are you ready to get into the hot seat?
Let's do it.
All right, so question number 1. The Singapore Grand Prix was a mainstay of the calendar from 66 to 73, but was removed for civil reasons as well as some fatalities during races. What year did the race return to modern Formula 1? Was it A 2000, B 2008, or C 2020?
I believe it was B 2008.
You nailed it. And then question number 2 is going to follow up right on that. So, the Renault racing outfit was at the center of an FIA investigation of conspiracy for an event transpiring at the first event back in Formula One in 2008. What was the name of this incident, colloquially afterwards? Did they call it the Massa's Pit mishap? Did they call it the Schumacher shuffle? Or did they call it Crashgate?
That would be C, Crashgate.
All right, can you just take a second and just tell the people what happened?
Sure. So to run back the tapes, going all the way back here to 2008, we had a very close title fight between Lewis Hamilton and Felipe Massa, of Lewis for McLaren, Felipe Massa for Ferrari, coming down to the last races of the season. Fernando Alonso was driving in Renault with his teammate Nelson Piquet, and we had a a returning member of our cast with Flavio Briatore as the Renault team principal. Um, Fernando Alonso had, I believe it was a bad qualifying and had to do a suboptimal race strategy. So he makes his pit stop, and then after driving on kind of less fuel than the other drivers, and then shortly after Fernando pits, Renault had Nelson Piquet, his teammate, intentionally crash, bring out the safety car, close the pit lane, which is very important in this era of refueling Formula One cars, where drivers would get a penalty if they entered the pit lane while it was closed during this recovery of the vehicle and everything. Basically catapulting Fernando to P1 after everything shakes out with the safety car to go on and kind of steal the race away from Felipe Massa, who was leading at the time, and thus steal the championship. The point differential, it was big enough that it would have won him the championship there. So this is where Felipe Massa's lawsuit that we've talked about on a couple of episodes comes from, where uh, Renault made this decision. It apparently was known kind of behind the scenes what happened, but just brushed under the rug. Hence Crashgate, like Watergate. They tried to just ignore it and make it go away, and it definitely did not. But that is where Lewis Hamilton won his first F1 title, by just a couple points there at the end of the 2008 season. So a pretty wild story, and some manipulation where now the manipulation we see is McLaren calling papaya rules on their drivers, but back then they were like they pulled a Brad Pitt from the F1 movie and said, let's guarantee Fernando a win here after a pretty rough season.
Dude, and the investigation ends in like, people losing their jobs, lifetime bans that like, didn't end up being that long, whatever. But yeah, I just think it's like one of the best cuts of like the modern Formula 1 era. I think it informs so many like other storylines as well. Normally I wouldn't like to take time out of the hot seat to get like a full history lesson in, but that one is a gem, and that's where like the myth of, like you said, Flavio Briatore, that's why he's, infamous, as it were, because he was one of the ones who incurred a lifetime ban for that incident, for like literal conspiracy and subterfuge. So yeah, just
Yep.
hilarious stuff. Thank you for enlightening the class on that one. That was beautifully told, sir. So I'm very happy to hear it again. Question number 3, you ready?
Yep.
All right, the chicane at turn 10 had been reprofiled many times before ultimately being smoothed out and removed. What's the name of the old chicane at turn 10? Is it A, the Singapore Sling? Is it B, the Ravazza? Or is it C, the swimming pool chicane?
The Singapore Sling, A.
Nailed it. We are on, boys. Let's go. All right, here we go. Question number 4. Shh. Everybody be quiet. Come on, come on, come on. All right, question number 4. Who is the driver with the most wins at this circuit? Is it A, Schumacher? Is it B, Hamilton? Or is it C, Vettel?
Ooh. I'm gonna go C, Sebastian Vettel.
He nails it. It is correct, sir. Sebastian Vettel has 5, count them, 5
That's
wins
impressive.
at the Singapore Grand Prix. It is pretty impressive. You would think, it'd be a Max, or a Lewis or somebody like this, but yeah, Sebastian Vettel holding the crown. All right, question number 5. This one's a really hard one. All right, in the question of Singapore race winners, which driver doesn't belong? Is it A, Lando Norris? Is it B, Sergio Perez? Is it C, George Russell? Is it D, Carlos Sainz? Is it E, Lewis Hamilton? Or is it F, Max Verstappen?
Max Verstappen does not belong.
Ooh,
F.
no, he doesn't. But the bright side is, that's a 5 for 5. We haven't hit that
Woo.
in many a race weekend. So let's get a round of applause for Aaron here on the hot seat. That killed me. That was so good. Thank you, sir, for the 5 for 5.
Absolutely. Thank you for the last question. Just twisting the knife a little bit. No. But it is funny with your question about the most winning driver at Singapore. The at the end of the last race weekend, in Azerbaijan, Max was asked, "Oh, like uh are you gonna bring Red Bull their first win at Singapore?" And he's like we've won there before, no? Like Checo, Vettel, like all these times. So I knew Seb had won there, so that helped me out a little bit. But yeah, Max has still, it's the last one that is lingering that he hasn't won on this year's calendar.
Yo, and the now F1 broadcaster used to be a race strategist, Ruth Buscom.
Yeah.
She called it a full set. The way she talked about it on the broadcast, she said
That's a
the
cool way to say it.
Singapore, yes, yes, that's what I thought. She said the Singapore Grand Prix is the last one he needs for a full set. I was like, bro, that's the coolest idea ever, where it's like he has won at every circuit that's like in the modern like pantheon. Like that's crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Except for this one, obviously.
well, it's pretty incredible just because like getting to that number of race wins in general, getting up to 24 race wins is such a feat in and of itself. in Formula One in modern world, especially. Um, so to see him have not only enough race wins, but enough to cover all these different circuits as well, minus Singapore, is just pretty wild.
Dude, now I have something to root for. Now I want to see him now I want to see him get the full set.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be crazy. But that will be maybe a headline for next year that we can talk about. But Aaron, there were a couple interesting stories, you know, some dramatic, some funny, some, you know, inflammatory, you could say. So hit me with a headline here. What do you got for us?
So I only brought one headline to this week's episode, but I've got quips, driver flips, and championships talking about the McLaren team there. We had, of course, some feisty talk from Oscar Piastri on the radio after the incident with Lando early on in turn one, where Lando bumped into both Max as well as Oscar, and Oscar was like, "Hey, we people asked what papaya rules were earlier this season, and I told them the one papaya rule is don't crash into each other." And so he felt a type of way from Lando, bumping him towards the barriers there on lap one. Um, Even saying that if Lando has to avoid another car by crashing into his teammate, that's a pretty bad job of avoiding, um, which I can certainly agree with. I would say in the scheme of things, it definitely was a racing incident. It's not something that McLaren should have interjected themselves into. I also do agree that Lando was a little reckless. He hit two different drivers trying to make that pass, but at the same time on lap one, you've got to try and make these moves stick. Singapore is very obviously a tough track to pass at, as we saw through the rest of the race. So Oscar being a bit frustrated. We don't have a driver flip this week. We're not letting Oscar back through. But then, as I mentioned earlier, with the radios being unplugged, Oscar at the end of the race was still. I mean, we've talked about the heat and the agitation from that and how it builds up these emotions for the drivers and everything. And Oscar was so frustrated, fed up at the end of the race from one, feeling like his teammate is not racing him in the same way that he feels he is racing against Lando, by avoiding contact and all of that. But unplugs his radio while Zach Brown's congratulating him. He ends up being in the media pen while the entire team is up on the podium celebrating the Constructors' Championship, being the kind of odd man out for that. I don't know if that was by his choice or if someone directed him, "Hey, like Oscar, you didn't finish on the podium, like come do your media," and he just went on and didn't realize that that's what was going to be going on. I don't know exactly where that shakes out, but it ends with McLaren winning the constructors championship to retain their title from last year. But what are your thoughts on this kind of frustration from Oscar? I think it's fair, in my opinion, but I also don't think that it really should have been as big as it was.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of exemplified over like the course of the race where it eventually fell to talking about other things where like there's other lap one incidents where you know they're still deciding it in the stewards room afterwards, you know, like this was, I mean, of all the like turn one lap one incidents, I mean this is as like, man, this is as like sand on a beach as it gets. You know, unfortunately, yes, it is the two, you know, uh the two good boys that are coming together and oh this and that. But yeah, man, I think when you really boil it down, that could have happened to anybody. Thank God neither of their race was ruined. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you just kind of have to move on in that scenario. I think the patience that the mentality that I had praised on a previous weekend, where it seems like they understood we don't just have the opportunity to win now, we have the opportunity to win like tomorrow and even maybe the day after. I think that's a really tough mentality to come by, and I believe that that kind of patience is being tested on like during an event like
Mm.
this. He's definitely not signing up for like the argy bargy in that regard, you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
here's what I'll say about the like team celebration. I hope the behind the scenes reason kind of like explains the horrible optics. I hope it was just like a miscommunication. They
Yeah.
didn't know it was like happening right then, you know, like up on like the podium or whatever. I just hope it was like a miscommunication or something like this. But if we were to learn that he literally was just like, you know what? I'm not going up there. I'd be like, oh man, I'm not sure I'm gonna cheer for you anymore, dog. Cause that's like, yeah, man, you took a lump, but let's not like, bro, let's
Yeah.
not sourpuss to the whole team, cause like y'all just won.
I agree. I think I wouldn't be surprised to find out that it was just a miscommunication. Like he got directed one way by the by some personnel in the paddock and was like, "Hey, Oscar, come do your media time and whatnot." But I also at the same time can give a little bit of grace with it, like we said, with the heat, the temperature. Like, dude's probably looking to he's like, I'm not going to the cool down room and sitting in air conditioning with a big bottle of water there with my name on it. Like, he maybe just didn't even think about it and just kind of was like, finish my race. This is I weigh myself, I go do my media, I head back to the garage or to the hospitality, and like it didn't even click in his mind. Um but I think again, I think the biggest reason that this is a conversation is because we've had these weird papaya rules incidents here and there,
Right.
and that, like I said earlier, and that we've talked about, I'm not saying that it's going to come down to the end of the season and they're going to be like, oh, Lando and Oscar swap for who's going to win the championship or whatever. But I do think that they've muddied the waters a little bit instead of just letting things play out as they do in racing. Um, to the point where it has to be kind of tough for the drivers to understand. Oscar's like, hey, I gave him back the position for something that was completely out of my control with the slow pit stop. Like, this was fully in his control to not hit me. like
Yeah.
like so I think because they've already like gone down this path, I can see where the mental like path for Oscar might have gone in that situation. But yeah, definitely interesting, and we still have a very tight title fight going down for the rest of the season, potentially with a third person in it. But Justin, before we talk about that, why don't you hit me with one of your headlines here for the week?
I've got one maybe that you don't expect from me. What do you think about this? Science seizes opportunity on softs.
Hmm, I like it.
So one of the big like kind of talking points around this circuit, Singapore, like many other street circuits, tough to overtake, qualifying pretty important. The kind of position that you gain on Saturday tends to be right around where you finish on a Sunday. I think the strategy that Williams and Carlos Sainz employed was really impressive and was the type of creativity that I think you need like to make something different happen on a weekend where people are like pricing in, like just a bad time, right?
Mhm.
So at first, DQ for a wing violation. It was either during the session or after the qualifying session.
It
I
was
can't tell
it was
sometimes.
put down after qualifying. They were scrutineering the team's cars and all to make sure they were in compliance, and
Gotcha.
the DRS flexed too much in the testing that they had for that mini DRS gap that we saw the rules crack down on a little earlier in the season.
Sure, yeah, when McLaren was trying to take their gains and Red Bull was like, can we take a look at this, please? But
Exactly
yeah,
what it was.
so DQ for a wing violation, yeah, comes after the qualifying session, all good. Starts P20 on the grid, gains 10 positions, ending on the softs, going really long. So like a change up from what like the front runners were doing. So instead of like starting on softs like Max did, starts on a different compound of tire and then ends on the softs. The tire delta was such that he was able to make overtakes. He was
Yeah.
actually able to make a lot of them, and it was like boom, boom, bam. I think there was like 4 or 5 overtakes in a row, like over the course of a couple laps. So I think for Carlos Sainz enjoyers, this was just maybe no podium here, but I think for creativity, grit, just like racing skill, I think this was a great test for Carlos Sainz. I found it very impressive to watch.
Yeah, and I think the other really impressive part was I'm 99% sure he was on the mediums. So he drove on the medium tires for 50 laps
Hmm.
before taking his only pit stop onto the soft tires. And yeah, at that point, he has had the tire delta on a bunch of the other drivers around him, but to be able to storm through and make it all the way up to P10, get into the points after uh yeah, being disqualified from qualifying, starting P20. I don't think there was any expectation, especially at this circuit, to be able to make something like that happen. So very impressive drive from Carlos, and great strategy from the Williams squad over there.
But yeah, overall, I think as far as like top racing stories, again, this was just another fun race weekend. I really like seeing the drivers like pushed and challenged, even if it is like a bit um bodily at Singapore, where it's like about the heat, about exhaustion, about hydration and these things. Very much, I'll echo sentiments like I've said for Monaco and some of these other maybe more particular circuits. I think it's good to have a change of complexion as to like what the challenges are, what the problems that the drivers and the teams are trying to solve. We see them bringing new equipment in the vests, the cooling ballast that you can put in the car. So there's different, solutions that you can go for to try and solve the problem of heat on a weekend, right? So I think that's really fun to see, and it gets a bit granular. But I think when we're in a position where the like championships already won, these are the things that I'll look to find some enjoyment from the races, because I do enjoy when each of the circuits offer these particular challenges. I think it's interesting that they've changed the circuit to a degree where it's actually a much simpler circuit now,
Mhm.
and they just kind of utilize the like conditions around them in the environment to create some of the jeopardy, some of the tension. Like they took out so many of the like 90-degree turns. You remember the under the bridge sector, the chicanes that they've smoothed. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward track, but it feels like one of the most intense. So yeah, I think there were a lot of storylines to latch on to. Those were just a couple of them. I did a
Yeah.
Piastri one too, so I'm happy I did an extra one about the radio, because yeah, I think that was like one of the main storylines. Obviously, whatever. Shout out to George, good for him.
Well, and talking about like the changes made to the circuit as well. Like up until last year, this is a track that had a guaranteed safety car. There had been a safety car at every single race there until last year. We go another race now with no safety car there in Singapore, which of course does speak to the quality of the drivers and everything out there, but also to some of these changes we made. Like a crazy stat for you here, Justin. But the top three people in laps led at the Singapore Grand Prix are Sebastian Vettel, Lewis Hamilton, and Bernd Maylander, the safety car driver, because he has 94 laps led at Singapore, just one lap more than Fernando Alonso with the 93 there at the circuit. So to say that it's been a challenging circuit and that it has a really tough history, I think is brings some of that jeopardy and some of the intrigue to it. But yeah, they've definitely they've put the bumpers on the bowling lane here for for the past couple of years with some of the changes as well. Um, but I think you got to give Georgia a little bit more of a shout out than that. I do like. I wanted Max to get the full set here and everything, but George drove, I mean, a phenomenal qualifying lap that was good enough for pole position after touching the wall during it. Then he comes and improves that time, um, pushes it just a little bit further away to secure that pole position, and then drove just a super clean race. Like I don't think you could have asked for much more from George. Than what he did. Kimi Antonelli. I should have mentioned this in around the water cooler, but uh, Kimi Antonelli. There's someone out there who has been tracking his performances based on uh, where titanium dioxide is allowed in food. It is a certain food coloring that's used in different foods, and it's banned in all of Europe. So basically, Kimmy's terrible European, as Kimmy has referred to it, European season of like our portion of the calendar. He's got the DNFs P18, P16, hops over to Montreal in Canada, P3, hops over like he's had uh an interesting run, and now it's not a banned food coloring here in Singapore. And what does Kimi Antonelli go on and do? He puts in a solid performance with a P5. So I don't know, correlation, causation. It's up in the air for me, but that was one of the funny things that I saw around Kimmy for the weekend.
Well, I'll tell you this much: one more round in the United States, he's still got Las Vegas left, so that's a guaranteed just snoozer for him. All the processed food we have over here, just count that one out for him. That's going to be a P15. He's going to be like, "Oh man, my stomach don't feel so good."
No, it's where this is allowed. So since we allow like everything in our food, he's gonna be on fire in America. He's gonna be crushing
Oh,
it.
oh,
Yeah, it's
okay.
flipped.
I
It's
I misunderstood.
he
Okay.
gets to eat this stuff in the food in different places, and it gives him spidey senses. Um,
Dude, that is so weird. You know what that makes me think of? Just like big tangent right here. You know what that makes me think of is what is that like Talladega Nights, where like the antagonist, he's like, my body is the hardware. What I put into it is the software. And he like tries to like eat really clean. And then they make him like drink an energy drink before a race or whatever. And he like crashes out. Like that's so funny. But it's actually the opposite, where it's like, give me the Doritos, give me the bad stuff, and it like superpowers Kimmy Antonelli.
Yeah, it's pretty funny because I like just scrolling through Twitter and someone made a full on chart of the performances, where this is banned, where it's not banned, and everything. So uh, pretty amusing conversation there. Um, the other kind of like last little note I had, and so we see Fernando Alonso battling for the points here. We miss out on his battle with Lewis coming down to the wire and everything, but is Lance Stroll in these races? Because I swear I did not see Lance Stroll the entire race this week. He
Yeah,
finished
bro.
he finished up in P13, but I do not think he got a split second of camera time. Then all of his media interviews and everything at the end of every race weekend are just so short. He barely answers the questions for the people. He's like, "Can I go home now?" And like I that is just I when you see Fernando like up there doing and performing this well in a weekend, I'm like Lance, like you if the Aston Martin is good enough for Fernando to put it in the points, I expect you to be a little bit closer and just nothing doing for Lance this weekend.
No, you see, Lance, he's having different conversations. His race weekends are a different it's a different like perspective on things. He's having conversations with Gary Gannon, his race engineer, about he's trying to offer Lance like other racers tire information, saying like, hey, driver heads on some old hards, let's go get him. Lance comes back with yeah, well, my mediums feel like 100 years old or whatever.
That's the
Like he's
only
just
thing that we hear from him the entire race.
he's just complaining, and you just hear his engineer going like, "Yep, Roger that, Lance. Just understood, Lance. Okay."
Just giving you some info there, bud. Please don't
Oh
get me
man,
fired.
but dude, yes, it's so funny imagining he is scrapping for just P19. He is battling just literal like he's just battling his own demons out there, bro.
Yeah, it's I did forget about that, but I don't know how. But yeah, I think that's the most we heard from Lance on the weekend. So um yeah, always interesting to see. But any other final notes here before we wrap out the Singapore Grand Prix weekend?
Ooh, I feel like the Ferraris had a bit of a plateau. I think that was a really tough weekend for the Ferraris. You basically, for Charles Leclerc, he was just being told, Lyco, Lyco, just over and over. I imagine it kind of became meaningless to him after a certain point. Like words you hear over and over, they
Is
kind of
that how
lose
you
form.
spell that?
Right.
Is that
Yeah,
a
it's like, how
word
do you spell
anymore?
that? Yeah, so I feel like his race must have been boring, must have been disappointing. Yeah, and then Lewis has oddly now a second race where he's able to finish on three wheels. So I think that's pretty impressive. But yeah, overall Ferraris I think struggling a little bit. Obviously, still both cars up into the points, no big failures. But I think they would have liked to see a little bit more pace. And yeah, I think the hotter temperatures obviously like messing with their package a little bit. So tough to see in regards to the Ferraris. Yeah, I think what you were talking about with the Mercedes, while I was kind of like clowning them a little bit. Yeah, nice to see, P1 for one of the cars, and then I'm pretty sure it was like P5 or P6 for Kimi Antonelli as well.
P5, yeah.
So yeah, so good stuff in that regard. I hated to see Hulkenberg getting taken out of the race. Like he just kind of got wrecked up.
Yeah.
And Gabby didn't fare too much better. But yeah, other than that, I think I kind of hit all the main points. We talked about Hadjar just being like just boiling the whole time. I thought that was kind of funny. But
I
as far as
mean,
like race stuff going on,
Yeah.
that's kind of it.
Hadjar was through the whole race weekend too, and if you saw his onboard from qualifying, I think someone counted and said it on the broadcast. They were like, "Yeah," and after his qualifying, he hit the steering wheel 18 times or something like that. So yeah, he was definitely going through it that weekend. But there will be some bounce back, I'm sure, for Hajar. He almost hung in the points there. Just couldn't quite hang on to that last spot.
Sometimes when I see people expressing themselves like that, like Isak Hajar does, in the cockpit, I kind of see them as my spirit animal in some ways. He has his team principal. He literally said to him like, "I'm sorry," like 3 times over the radio, and Isak. His response is he just like is banging his head forward, just whipping it into turn 8. I'm like, this guy's this guy's pretty hardcore. I kind of
Yeah.
like it.
And I love that I think he had talked about like the yelling on the radio and everything. He's like, "Yeah, I still do it. I just don't press the radio button anymore." So
Exactly.
he's just screaming in his helmet sometimes. Just
Dude,
oh
it's the
man.
French it's the French heritage in him, man. Like it's all good. Even my boy Dan Mattis Claire, one of the greatest, one of the greatest to do what he does. Boy's got a temper, but at the same time, you got to think like it's like Austin Powers Mojo. If you take that away, like what really is he, right? So sometimes I think you have to take the bad with the good, to get the whole picture, right? And I think that's what we have with Hajar. But very similar to Yuki, where like if he can just kind of hone that in, he'll be better
Mhm.
off for it. But right now, it's just
Yeah.
a little bit of entertainment. But we see him on the rise, right? So it's fun to talk about.
Oh, absolutely. Like he's still so young. He's 21 years old, I think, and I'm sure that back when I was 21 playing League of Legends, you could probably imagine me and Isaac Hadjar being kind of the same cloth at that point in time. So,
With
um,
similar stakes as well.
oh,
Similar.
yeah, totally, 100%. But nah, just that competitiveness from him is a good thing, of course. But just being a little bit easier on himself when things don't go his way is probably he'll temper that a little bit over his career, I'm sure.
Yeah, I hope, because like at the end of the day, and here's like the critical, part of the analysis though, is you waste valuable energy. Like it's literal energy that you're expending to like have those type of reactions
That's fair.
on a race weekend where you're losing 10 pounds of water. One could argue that expressing yourself in that manner like actually would be detrimental to your race. So yeah, you just hope he figures it out sooner than later. Because yeah, at a certain point, I think some of these drivers are thinking about all of their resources available, right?
Yeah.
A little bit of um, yeah, just mindfulness in that regard could go a long way. But yeah, I just wanted to speak on Isak Hajar, my favorite rookie to keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. So rounding out the Singapore Grand Prix, just to run through the podium here, we had George Russell P1, Max Verstappen P2, Lando Norris P3. So the constructor or the drivers standings, constructors is all wrapped up for McLaren, but driver's standings, Max pulled himself a little bit closer into the picture, but more crucially, Lando picked up a few more points on Oscar this weekend. So still very much in the hunt, just 22 points back from Oscar uh, in that title fight at this point.
We have no idea what the script writers have in store for us. We've been just snoozing and sleeping on this McLaren angle, and right at the end, they're going to give us just the greatest comeback story you've ever seen. World champion again, number 5, Max, from out of nowhere, from downtown, from a mile away. Here comes Max, just fucking boiling it in, taking the championship.
I'm not getting my hopes up yet. I'm still keeping it low, but definitely damage limitation at one of the circuits Max has had the toughest time at. But closing out the episode, let's head on over to the cooldown lap here. And Justin, why don't you hit me with your flavor of the week for this week?
Bro, if he actually wins, I will not, you cannot say I knew the whole time. I will
Oh,
not
that
have that.
no, that's fair. I
He's
will
gonna be
not.
like, I knew it.
I will say I hoped the whole time.
Sure.
Actually, no, I can't even say that. You can quote that. I definitely lost hope halfway through the season. It was just like, four was pretty good.
That'll be a headline though. Faith to the faithless. That'll be the headline there.
There
But
we
yeah,
go.
my flavor of the week here. With some help from a friend, I've been trying to improve. One of the basics. I would have these like really runny, burnt eggs. They'd be poorly seasoned. The pan was too hot. I would just ruin them all the time. But now, through a little bit of practice, I have light, fluffy, well seasoned, perfectly cooked eggs every time. I know the secrets of the universe now. So I've been really impressed with that. I'll do like a little rice bowl, a little bit of veggies,
Okay.
whatever. But just very versatile, and I'm just happy to just always be working on my fundamentals. So I think that's good. My music here for the week, bro, and I'm gonna tell you again because I don't think you heard me the first time I told you. So I'm gonna tell you again. Worlds is right around the corner, and bro, I've been putting on my jammies. I've got my faker socks on. I have my Chovy hat, and boy, am I just gearing up. And they have songs for every year. They do like a big like anthem for the whole tournament, that they play in between all the ads and whatever. They use it as like the big performance at the end of the year. The song for last year, so the 2024 World's Anthem, it was called Heavy is the Crown, sung by Linkin Park. They do like a whole performance like as the opening ceremony for the world final. But bro, the music video for this song and a bunch of the other like world's anthems, but this one specifically, the Heavy is the Crown music video, they make the lead singer like, dude, god status on this animation. They just make the whole band look so cool. And it kind of feels like they would fit right into, I don't know if you watch the Netflix show Arcane, but it
Mhm.
feels like it'll fit like right into that art style, right into that world. It's just amazing. And it's like, it's this fight scene, and there's a moment where the contenders meet the defending champions. And what's really cool, and I didn't notice this, it was only on my like 100th watch of the music video that like I noticed this, where it's only 4 out of the 5 team members that like step forward to like meet the attackers at the gates. And it's only until later when basically like the King's Guard have been defeated that the fifth member of the group like emerges from the castle. And I was like, bro, that's just so cool. Like you don't even get to take your shot at the guy. You got to go through like his guard first. I was like, hey, that's just epic. But then just thinking about like video game lore, it's very similar to, and this isn't my idea, this is Kadril's, but he opened my eyes to it. It's like the Elite Four in Pokemon, where you have to beat the Elite
Yeah.
Four before you get to take on the champion. It's like it has big that vibes. So I've just watched this music video, and all of like previous world's content, just like watching everything I can. Just I'm so hyped for the tournament coming up here in October. So yeah, just anything I can get my hands on that's like world's nostalgia related. Boy, I'm just prepping so hard. So check out that music video because it's very cool, and our boy Fake is depicted beautifully. And then my visual medium here for the week, my Dune era is over. Like I said, I got far enough into the books where I kept myself spoiler free. I was able to not incur any data before I should have incurred it. So now I'm past that. Now I'm able to move into some other films. So I've been exploring the work of Paul Thomas Anderson. I started with his first film. It's called Hard Eight. It's like a Vegas nostalgia, a little bit of like a crime thriller, very like actor focused, but a really good one. So I was excited to kind of get back into movies again after taking a bit of a hiatus, to explore the planet of Arrakis. Yeah, it's been nice to get into some more movies. And the next one up, I'm pretty sure, is Magnolia by PTA, the same director. So I'm interested to get into his works and try and find like my own kind of thread to pick up for this director, as he's a beloved director. But yeah, I'll have to find kind of my own way in, as it were. But yeah, just excited to get into some more movies. But that's been my flavor of the week.
Why did you choose him specifically as a producer or
It's just the
director?
next one on the list. I didn't make the list. The list is given to me. I
Okay.
read the list in order and I check things off in order. That's it.
All right, there we go. Well, I'll hit you with my flavor of the week. I've got a relatively quick one, but my food for this past week has just been pizza. It was not intentional, but Colleen was away for work, so I got a frozen pizza middle of last week while she was gone. I was feeling lazy. Didn't want to cook anything crazy for dinner, so boom, pizza. Friday night, Colleen's like, I could go for some pizza. I'm like, I had pizza, but like, let's get something a little different. So, buffalo chicken pizza on Friday. Saturday lunch, leftover pizza. Saturday night, we get together with friends to watch the Phillies playoff game. Pizza. So, I've just been on a pizza roll. Um, Call me Totino's. But it's been I mean it's all been good pizza, so I can't complain. My music for this week, which I've not listened to all of it, but Colleen has been force feeding me the new Taylor Swift album. So I've been listening to that a little bit. I've definitely enjoyed some of the songs and everything. I like she's a good artist, so I've been enjoying Colleen bringing her taste in music over and having me enjoy that with her. Um, and then for my visual medium, we've traded one reality TV competition show for another. Big Brother wrapped out just a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and Survivor kicked right on up. So we're watching the new season of Survivor here. And very much looking forward to the rest of the season. It's Survivor's one of my favorite shows uh, across life for myself. I've watched it since I was young, and so I'm enjoying getting to watch the new season.
What's like the shtick for the new season?
Not any big shtick. The past few they haven't had a real main like theme or something like different going on. The next season will be interesting because it's season 50. So I've been doing this for 25 years and they're bringing back a bunch of previous players for that cast. So I wouldn't be shocked to see them do some interesting twists and turns, but it's just always interesting as just it's a kind of social experiment to some extent where they have all these competitions. You find your people that you want to latch on to and root for and everything, and it's just fun to see people from different walks of life kind of have to band together and figure it out for competition or for their own game to try and win that millie. So
Yeah, I had a client telling me about some of the, maybe it was like one of the recent like champion seasons that they had where it was like two players managed to whatever, link up, team up, work together, whatever the term that they use on the islands is. But two players managed to team up and work together damn near through the whole season without the other players figuring out that they were the ones aligned.
So that was actually just one of the recent seasons. It wasn't a returning cast or anything. It was just
Okay.
these two people. They were on the same tribe. Typically, it starts currently with three tribes of like six people.
Hmm.
These two people were on the same tribe, and they formed a connection immediately, but they played it cool. They wouldn't like go chit chat with each other that often. They would just secretly meet up and like over like 2 minutes be like, hey, here's all I'm hearing, what are you hearing, let's make this move, boom, done, and then just move forward and go back to like ignoring each other basically, to the point that the everyone around them had no idea that they were working together to propel themselves forward with their alliance and everything. So yeah, that was a pretty impressive like play style. It's kind of funny to see from the TV angle. You get all of those little snippets of them talking, but in reality, there's sometimes they talked about it at the end of the game that there were times that they would go 24 48 hours without saying a word to each other. They'd just meet up right before they need to make decisions, bing bang boom, and done. So yeah, just the all the different personalities, different people that come on, it always shakes things up whether there's any particular twists or not. So yeah, definitely one of my favorite shows.
Yeah, and as a game, I mean, the strategy has been developing. None of it happens in a vacuum. There are would-be players watching the current season being like, how would I win this? You know what I mean? Jeopardy is played the same way until some idiot just starts picking from the bottom, and now what do we do? Right? Like some people just come in and change the game, but sometimes
Yeah.
for the better. So that's cool that Survivor's back.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I'm definitely going to enjoy the season. But we have kept you all long enough. Ladies and gentlemen, that does wrap out the end of this week's episode for the 2025 Singapore Grand Prix. As always, we appreciate everyone listening, spending time with us. Hit our link tree for anywhere you want to listen to us on podcast, see us on video, interact with us on Discord, Twitter. We'd love to chat Formula One and anything else. So we appreciate you all very much.
New episodes after every Formula One event. So if there's a race that weekend, we've got an episode coming for you. So just thank you very much to everybody tuning in, and we will see you on the next one. Peace out, everyone.
See ya.